When you're sad and blue and everything is putting you down, you know the world keeps spinning around. You know you're not alone.
Yes, with MS, the world keeps spinning around, but you're not alone. Welcome to the 10 Minutes for MS podcast, in which we share information about MS.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the 10 Minutes for MS podcast, season 2. I'm so glad to be back again with you guys. And today we have an amazing guest on our show. And her name is really sweet like honey, Shahd Alshammari. Shahd Alshammari is from the Middle East. And she is a very inspirational author. I have myself read her book. I have to show it to you right away. Head Above Water. And oh my God, I was just taken aback while reading it. I'm not going to waste much time and going to introduce Dr. Shahd Alshammari right away. Hi, doctor. How are you?
Hello, hi Rita, how are you? Thank you for having me. It's really exciting.
Absolutely. It's such an honor to have you here. And your journey with MS has been, of course, full of struggles, but also inspirational for all the people around the world. I have to just, tell you that when I was going through your book, I felt like I'm there, right there, watching it and watching your entire story, how you're on bed, you're crawling on the floor, and how you're reaching out to things. Oh my God, there were times when I actually had tears in my eyes, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. That was really, I could just see a real picture in front of my eyes. So beautifully described and beautifully worded, and I love the description, how you have mentioned some of the things like randomness of the illness and unpredictability. And I'm going to quote a few sentences while speaking to you later. I mean, this was really amazing. So congratulations to you for this book.
Thank you. I'm so happy, Rita, that you liked it and that you're able to see it. I think the readers who can probably feel it the most are really the people who have lived with the same illness or actually with any kind of pain. So I'm so happy that you were able to see it, to visualize it.
Absolutely. So MS is an invisible disability, but there are so many other people who are disabled, not having MS. They all can relate to this today, and especially how you have described the woman, dealing with disability. It's amazing. It's just mind blowing. So thank you once again for being here, and thank you Neem Trees for sending this over to us. It's such an honor to have you here on our show and talking about this book. Thank you so much. So I know when you must be talking to a lot of people, they must be the first question they must be asking you was, how was your Miss journey? But my question is going to be different to you today. And that is,
Great.
how do you see yourself today? Because for me, you are already a role model for all the people, these people with disability, for all the women around the world. You're already a role model. So how do you see yourself today? How you were before MS, when you were diagnosed, and how you have evolved yourself?
I think that's a lovely question, actually, Rita. Thank you, because it's a different question. I haven't been asked that. And it's something that I think everyone with any sort of life changes, especially illness, and something that comes so suddenly, especially like with MS, it's a very random and at a very young age. So I think a lot about mortality. We think about our bodies a bit more than able-bodied people or people who have not been touched yet by illness. So I sometimes like to think that my journey, in life so far, having been diagnosed with MS at a very young age, at 18, my first symptom was probably 15 or 16 or even 14. And it wasn't, understood. I didn't understand my body. Doctors didn't. So looking back, I always think, this has really changed my entire life narrative. And it wasn't just the diagnosis, but also how I started thinking as a person. I started being able to understand more about how we live our lives, what really matters, connections, human connections, friendships, family connections, and even connections with random people on the internet. You know, connections like with someone like yourself, or with the multiple sclerosis awareness community, that I would have never had otherwise. I would have never spoken to older people. I would have never spoken to people across, different continents, different religions, different cultures. And having MS actually connected me, or changed my entire life narrative, to kind of put me in this place where I'm connected to so many different communities, so many different people. And I think it made me develop empathy that I did not have before as a teenager. I think I was a bit more of a rebellious teenager, like most teenagers. I didn't think about the body. I didn't think about, what I eat, what I drink, how I spend my energy, how older people spend their energy, what matters in life. It was just, fun all the time. And I think having MS at a very early age somehow changed the way I look at life. And I don't want to say it and diminish the pain of MS and diminish the suffering and the intensity of having this, different life. But it has had its blessings also. And I think it had changed my perspective. I think it made me more humble as a person. When otherwise, before MS, I don't think I was as humble. I was not humbled. I think with the illness coming, it humbled me. It made me, not just empathetic towards others, but also towards myself. Starting to understand, how vulnerable we are as humans. Something that younger people don't think about, and I think able-bodied people don't really think about it. So, in a sense, I think it made me a better human being. And I'm constantly working also on my awareness of not just MS, but, what it means to live in different bodies, whether that's through race, sexuality, disability, religions, privileges, things that I never thought about before. I think MS was just a door. It just opened that door to get me thinking about life in general. And life could have passed by, and I would have not paused and thought about anything. I think I would have always been on the run.
Absolutely. I am so happy to hear such a positive answer. This is so true. MS does open doors for you to look at, and it's your perception. You want to look at it in a negative way or positive way. Yes, there can be negativity at a
Of
moment,
course.
but
Yeah.
at the end, it's you how you accept your new self and you start loving yourself again, and how you become positive and focus on your body and spreading positivity around you, spreading awareness about around you. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for this
Of
inspirational
course.
answer.
Yeah.
Actually, the way I said, you're already a role model and your answer says it all.
Thank you too. Actually, I learn a lot also from your work, and I learn a lot from multiple sclerosis awareness posts. I share them with everyone who doesn't really think about disability or MS, and you use humor many times, and I think that's also something that we can learn to use in our lives. Even with our own selves, humorous rather than being very very upset. And of course, the disease is upsetting, and it's quite difficult to work with. But that dose of humor, even as simple as an Instagram post that I see, it sometimes helps me accept the reality a bit more.
Absolutely. Yes, doctor. Thank you so much. This was the aim that I started this page 10 years back, firstly spreading positivity. So my catch line was MS spread positivity and happiness. So
Yeah.
you have to spread positivity and you have to make people smile using
Absolutely.
humor or using whatever, just make them smile. Thank you so much for all your support. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So, coming back to your book, my favorite book. So, you have expressed about feeling voiceless and struggle with your sense of identity. You have quoted in one of the chapters, I can say it's chapter 2 itself. You have written, I'll just read it out a little. Mirrors are tools that measure the depth of our skin, and dark circles under my eyes became another way to remind me that I was aging faster than my friends. My eyes constantly looked tired, no matter how many hours I slept. I was continuously embarrassed by the number of comments I received about my lack of makeup, my sleepy red eyes, and I began anticipating the comments before anyone ever said anything. This was very, very touchy for me. So, yeah, this shows that how much, you felt that your body is changing. Everything is changing, and people are not supportive. They are there to give you comments
Yeah.
about what's happening. How did you
Yeah.
deal with a situation like that? And do you think that everybody with disability at one point or the other does go through such a situation?
I think also for women, Ritu, that passage, I think, men and women are likely to receive these comments, but with women, it's on a different level. Speaking from my experience and other women too, other friends of mine who do have different illnesses actually, it's always this expectation that, we have to always look perfect and good, and you have to be attractive and beautiful. And if even when we talk about age, with ageism, older women are not considered as attractive. And if you look, it's a lot of toxic culture really about what's expected of us. And for some reason, these comments that I mentioned in the book, they come from strangers, they come from friends, they come from family members, from colleagues, from different age groups. And usually they come from people who I haven't asked for, their opinion or advice. And it sounds like it's caring, but it's horribly invasive. And I started really struggling with this earlier in life. Having, the passage you quoted, it's one of the more painful ones and intimate ones about, in the mirrors and so on. But even human beings in front of me became like mirrors, when they would say something that I didn't necessarily want to hear. You look so
Exactly.
tired. Have you slept? Or, you should try this vitamin. Or maybe if you'd go to the gym a bit more, or some extra blusher might help. I have a brand that I can share with you. And all sorts of this unsolicited advice, I became very, very upset with it. And, it's hard enough living with MS and still having to deal with the societal pressure. It was incredibly difficult. I started writing about it. I kept a blog for nearly 10 years in which I would write all of these, feelings and express all of this difficulty. I found that it was almost pointless to get into a conversation with whoever was giving the advice,
Of
because they
course.
didn't and couldn't understand. There was no effort to actually understand. There was always this sense of, let's fix this person or let's help. And it's quite unhelpful, actually. So I always used to go to my mom with this because when I was younger, I really didn't know what to make of it. I was just constantly hurt by it. And, she would say things like, you can just tell them, please, I don't want to hear this advice. I didn't have that bravery at that age. And she would say things like, a lot of people don't really know where the boundary is. They don't know how to set a boundary, and you need to
True.
set that boundary for them. And I would say, yeah, but I'm shy to do it. Or some of these are older, faculty members or older colleagues.
You can't be rude to them.
Our culture has this also seniority. Arab culture has that. So I was, and I think like Asian culture in general, there's a sense of respect to elder members, and it can be quite hurtful and invasive. So I don't think that I have found a way yet to deal with it. But I've started recently, just like about 6 months ago, actually, or a year, when people say things to me, I start saying, yes, I know I look tired. It's a long story. and I don't know if you want to eat it. So and usually people just are shocked with that answer. Okay, okay, well, okay, I hope you feel better, thank you, and then it ends right there, rather than continuing to a long, a column, advice column, really. So yeah, that's where things are at.
Absolutely. So exactly. So whenever people come and say that you're tired or you just have little vitamins, I'm like, yeah, okay, okay, as if I don't know,
Of course you do.
as
Yeah,
if
I
you're
think
the only doctor. Seriously, people have opinions, but what I believe that two things teach them, teach anybody, to be sober or not to give these statements. One is the experience. For example,
yeah,
us, we have
yeah,
experience, we know what it is. We might not say anything, something that will hurt anyone, or
mm,
any. We can put ourselves in another person's shoes and see and gauge what to say or not. The other thing, according to me, is the awareness.
yeah,
No, yes, awareness. By awareness, not 100% of the people will, be subtle and not be giving statements like that. But at
yeah,
least 40% people, 30% people will
absolutely.
understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that's the reason why awareness of disease, awareness of, how to treat people with disabilities or
yeah,
invisible diseases is very
absolutely.
important. Very important. That's why we say spread awareness as much as we can. So, spreading awareness here. So, one more statement below that was that my aunts and uncles looked at me as though I was a liar.
Yeah,
Some didn't hesitate to label me as one. Girls lie all the time, one aunt had said. Girls love the attention. After reading all these statements, did you ever, was there ever a point wherein you blamed your own self? That really,
absolutely. Yeah.
why am I like this?
Yeah, of course. I think when I was younger, yes, lack of not just awareness, but lack of empathy, lack of self-love for oneself. When we're younger, and there's a lot of confusion, especially when it comes to sudden illness or sudden disability like MS. You feel quite alone. There's a sense of isolation, and the voice of the collective is stronger. The voice of a group is stronger. So not just one, but two, but three, and different people all around. Even in the media, on television, when you see disability and you see how it's portrayed, it's tragic or as a punishment. So there's a sense of, does that represent me? And there's a disconnect. No, that's not what I want to be seen as. That's not who I think I am. There's a disconnect between that. And hearing comments like, it can't be that bad, or girls like the attention, or even now with the memoir, with people saying, why would you write about that? Why would you even want to write about a whole
Wow,
book just about pain? And I've
wow,
had comments like, I don't want to be seen as that author. I don't think I would want to be seen as that disabled author. All of this kind of all this difficulty that society has with accepting disability, with accepting women who speak out about their bodies, about pain. It's, I think, really interesting. And now as an adult, I think I'm able to kind of understand it a bit more and not reflect on my own self as as not my fault. I think now I'm really aware that it's not about me. And I think younger I used to question it. What can I do to avoid these comments, or what can I do to not appear in that way? Again, with awareness, as you said, with communities, with reading, with research, with self-awareness, self-love, and kind of even with friendship and support and all sorts of different ways of arriving at this understanding that the problem is actually society, that it's really society that makes you feel all these things. And Again, it's not one aunt or one person, one individual. It's a collective, really. It's a more general collective. Everywhere you look, you can't see, as you said, a more positive image or even a more neutral image of what MS looks like or what disability looks like. All we see is it's tragic or it's dramatic. That's a lot of words that, of course, women have gotten all across time. Women are labeled as crazy, as dramatic, all across time. It's since the very beginning of history. And nobody wants to be labeled like that. So I think that we're always in this kind of struggle to be seen as authentic, to be seen as, validated that the pain is real and the experience is real. It's not made into a tragedy. It's not made into a drama for no reason. And we're the best spokespeople about our own bodies, about illness, about whatever it is that we're feeling. So the lack of believing, or this complete disbelief, especially I think with invisible disabilities and with MS, that makes it way harder than the reality that we have to live with. So again, society as disabling more than the actual bodily pain. And I think that I'm still kind of learning how to work through it.
Absolutely, you're right. It's a society. It's not just one uncle or one aunt. It's the society, and we have to learn through it. Absolutely. So, what difference do you see between a disabled man and a disabled woman being treated by the society? Because, as I know, if you see a disabled person, the first thing you see is his disability.
Yeah.
But what kind of gender discrimination have you noticed?
So disabled men, from what I've seen and from my research, both personally and academically, disabled men have to struggle with a lot of toxic masculinity. So we tend to look at men, again, this is very stereotypical, but we look at them as super strong, capable of financially and physically supporting you. So with disability, that changes a little bit, at least for society, but they still
Yes.
have opportunities. They still sometimes have better marriage opportunities. They have more likely to still maintain a job. With women, I think there's a double oppression. So women have less marriage opportunities, less work opportunities, less family support. A lot of times they're also hidden, more hidden by the families. From what I've seen, again, personally, there's a lot of stigma surrounding
Yes.
disabled women. With men, I think there is a bit more acceptance because he's still a man. So again, it's a very stereotypical idea, but I think that there is a bit of privilege that comes with of course, gender. So men have it, I think, a little bit easier. Doesn't mean it's very very easy for them. Just a little bit easier. And I think disabled women are still looked at. They're not looked at in the same way. We see disabled men in movies, for instance, and they tend to be very
Hmm.
handsome men, and he's just in a wheelchair. But you don't see a lot of disabled women on screen or anywhere really, and still are looked at as attractive or as something inspirational, or someone that we can actually like. But I see a lot of this in Hollywood movies, and it's interesting that the disabled man still gets his chance on screen, and we still look at them, and romantic movies are made about the man in the wheelchair who happens to find that love of his life. We don't see that a lot from the other way around, so it's interesting. It's
Yeah,
really
actually,
interesting.
that's a very interesting thing. So I'll tell you, I do get a lot of questions from all around the world. And one question that particularly I've got from women who have been newly diagnosed with MS, saying that what about their future, their love life, their marriage? Can they ever marry someone? Will anybody accept me?
Yeah,
But I have not got this question from a male
yeah,
anytime.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think you
maybe.
will.
Yeah, I don't know why, but maybe it's yeah, the society.
Absolutely. I think that privilege of just being born as a man, that really does help, quite a lot. It really does help you in a lot of societies. And this is not just Eastern societies in general, Western societies too. I see a lot of it in these communities. The female partner is more likely to take on the role of the caretaker, because women are seen as nurturing, as more patient, as they're able to mother you. And with men, the idea of a man as a caretaker, I don't see a lot of that. For the woman with disability, I see it on forums. The same questions. Should I leave my partner because she's been diagnosed that she can't take care of the house, she can't take care of the kids. I want to live a normal life, and this is a man speaking in a forum. It's really interesting, and I think yes, definitely disabled women have it way worse, and it's much more difficult. And again, not because of their lack of strength, not because of it's not them. It's really the society is incredibly prejudiced, and there's a lot of discrimination against women with disabilities and across everything. So not just MS.
That's very interesting. Actually, now you're opening a lot of thoughts with this answer that yes, women are discriminated in a different way, even with disabilities. We already know that women are discriminated in many other ways. Now, when
Absolutely.
it comes to disability, how they must be treated. How
Yeah.
so? What about the privileges given to the disabled people by the government? Are they available for women specifically or not? Is also a
Yeah.
question now. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things to ponder on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, I also want to ask you this question about you have said that, in your opinion, no, so you have spoken about the randomness of the disease.
Yes.
So, yeah, one second. Yes, you have mentioned that the randomness of the disease, this was really, oh my God. When I read this, oh God, okay, I have to read this. So, the randomness of the disease was something I could not adjust to. It wasn't cancer, so I wasn't dying. It wasn't diabetes, which was something I had watched my father deal with and didn't stop him from functioning. And I had all my limbs, they hadn't been cut off in an accident. So, what was this random disease? This random disability? This was, oh my God. This is so rightly worded here. I'm sure these are the thoughts of many people, but they don't know how to express it. And you have so expressed it so well here. So, when you talk about the randomness of disease, um, how did you overcome these negative thoughts while fighting with MS?
I think the first question was not being able to see this randomness anywhere. So again, I hadn't seen it in front of me in family members. I hadn't seen it on television. Never seen MS represented anywhere on television. At least back then. Now I think there's a bit more representation, but generally I hadn't read about it. I hadn't seen it. I didn't understand how one day, I would need to use a cane and then or a wheelchair, and then the next day I'm going to the gym. I couldn't understand that. So I think a big part of it was being able to label it, to put a name to it, because when you don't understand something, it's a monster. You're scared of it. You don't understand it. So
Yes.
I think when I grabbed it and labeled it as a random disability. So rather than a disability, I wanted to name it for what it was. It was a random disability. And actually, I coined that term and I put it in a research paper. It was the first time it was called a random disability. And then it was cited later on by other scholars. So it made me very happy that it was taken seriously as a term, random disability, because it really fell between invisible disability, permanent disability, physical disability.
Yes.
And I felt I got some sort of power by understanding it. Awareness, as you said. So when I understood it, I felt like I was beginning to overcome it rather than
Hmm.
the other way around. These thoughts were just constantly there, drowning me all the time. And then when I started, really thinking and reading and thinking about it in multiple ways, this idea of how can you live in such a body without it completely drowning you? And that's really when I started thinking about the randomness of it. And I began to accept that there's a lot of things in life, not just MS, that's actually quite random. Also, the good things, right? Like having this book published, quite random, really. So I think that's how it became a bit more something I could accept. So going from that, I think, sense of hopelessness and darkness to a bit more empowerment.
Exactly. So you started seeing the positive things also in your life. Like it's not
Exactly.
just a random disease, but also random good things that are happening in your life.
Absolutely. Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly.
So what is the lack of access was the societal barrier to disabled individual success? So,
Yeah.
what kind of accessibility have you spoken about? And I also read that in one of the sentences, someone had told you that you should carry something which mentions that I'm disabled
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
proof of disability. So, would you like to
Absolutely.
talk about the accessibility that should be there for the people with disability?
I think, especially with MS, because it's something that you don't always see, so there tends to be a problem with access. So using a disabled parking, using a disabled toilets, asking for let's say a seat on the plane that is a bit more accessible. Saying, I can't go to a physical conference. I would like it to be a virtual conference. It's easier for me not to have to travel. And all of these things that are about accessibility, about inclusion with MS or with an invisible disability, you have to prove it. There's a sense of society asking you to prove how real is a disability, how bad is a disability. Can't you
Absolutely.
walk from here to there? Come on, they're only 10 steps. So there's a lot of this, and it's so exhausting, again, more than the actual disease, that the people always ask you these questions, and they need you to, like I said, carry a sign or prove
Yeah,
it. It's almost like they want to scan your insides, and they want to scan the inside of your brain to make sure that it fits their description of disability and access. So again, this is very much all about disbelief and not believing people when they ask for their needs and accessibility. It's quite oppressive, actually.
yes.
And I've had it happen to me multiple times. I get stopped in airports. I get stopped when I ask for a disabled parking. I have the right paperwork, but because they don't see a wheelchair, that's all they see. That's all they understand. So it's definitely lack of access, and it's quite tiring, really. I usually stop and explain to people, but that in itself is a whole burden, right? When you have to stand there, you take another 10 minutes of your time to explain. Okay, well, I don't look like I have a problem, but not everybody who's standing and walking. It doesn't mean that we all can do what you can do. And the wheelchair is not the only symbol for disability or for MS.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's definitely a whole problem. Accessibility is I think there needs to be a lot done all over the world, actually. It's happened to me in multiple parts of the world, not in one country and not the next. It's almost everywhere.
Everywhere. Absolutely. I've carried my Avenix injections
Yeah.
in India, in domestic as well as in the US abroad.
Yeah.
And everywhere I've been asked to, show the prescription that why am I
Yeah.
carrying, what am I carrying, a proof that I'm carrying. And that is like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So that is,
Yeah.
you have this thing in your head, oh my God, you're carrying injections, people will ask, people will see what's in the box,
Yeah.
in the ice box. Oh, then you come
Yeah.
to know it's injection. And why you take injection? You have to tell that you have MS.
Yeah.
So many things that goes on your mind while you're traveling around the world. Yeah, that is so true. No matter where you
So
are,
tiring. Absolutely. Yeah.
speaking about your health, so would you like to tell something about your current health? How are you doing now? Are you on any kind of medications? And how is life for you right now?
Well, to be honest, I'm, taking a lot of supplements, like a lot of people with MS. I try everything. I have found Pilates really works for me. And I'd advise anybody who can do it, even if just a few movements. It really does help with the pain. It helps with the fatigue. It helps with the muscle pain. If I'm not doing it on a daily basis, definitely everything else becomes harder. I've also picked up squash. That's a new sport. And again, I'm not the best at it, but it's really good for cognition, and it's really
Exactly.
good for some movement. And with MS, we tend to have slower reflexes, so it's helping with reflex. And I think a lot of this is when it comes to people living with MS and like myself, there's a bit of fear around what we can and cannot do,
Yes.
and there's also a fear about pushing your body too much. But I've come to realize that as long as we try anything at all, it really does make a difference. And I think we kind of have to be a little flexible, and a bit more open-minded with what we want to try. And even if we fail, I've tried so many things and failed at so many of them. And again, there's always a sense of what if one thing works? And so I found these few little hacks, few little techniques here and there, and it's been okay. It's been okay. And I think with MS, every day is different. You really never know. So there's
Absolutely.
this sense of can't really speak definitely about how things are at the moment, these are the things that are working, and we just keep going.
Absolutely. Never give up and keep your hope alive always. And just try working on yourself in every way you can. So, who has been your biggest strength in your journey of MS?
Well, I think definitely my mother. I think maybe you picked that up from the book. And I think definitely my mother for me, actually. She has
Absolutely.
never dealt with disability in her life or with her family's life or had a friend with disability or anything. But as a mother, and I think as a supportive mother specifically, so she did all the reading. She put herself in the research mode. She did as much reading as she could, and that's why I wish everybody had that. I think I had that privilege. Support comes in various ways and awareness comes in various ways, but the least people can do, especially our loved ones, is just to read. And
Agree.
she didn't make me feel, even aware that she was doing the reading. I would find one brochure here, I would find one book here. It was very random, and we never even spoke about it. But she was doing all she could to understand. And I think that's one thing we really need. A lot of people ask, what do you really need? What kind of support? I think that sense of understanding, that's what really, really helped me. Um, and I think she also really helped me understand, my own limitations without taking away my power, which is a very hard balance to find. So I would say she didn't make things completely easier, not at all. She would still make me do my own stuff. She would still make me try different, ways of surviving. But at the same time, that was enabling rather than disabling. So I always knew she would be there if I really needed the help. But at the same time, there was a sense of you try it on your own, because what if I'm not there? And how are you going to manage? So I think that's a lot of strength that she had, that was passed on to me. And I think that really, really made the world of a difference. And I wish everyone had that kind of support, especially with MS, be through a partner, through a husband, a sibling, even a friend, a good friend that, understands, doesn't have to be a parent. I think that sense of understanding and enabling was really that balance that I needed, and that she put in the effort to understand rather than being told, please read, please understand me. I didn't have to request it. And I think that makes a huge difference. Sometimes we get tired of asking for others to read and to understand. It can feel very exhausting. So I think, out of her own goodwill and her own desire to understand, that's when things became really, really helpful.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's how parents are. They do everything there for kids. And when she came to know that you are suffering with MS at such a young age, of course she had to take the role, and she had to really be the superwoman in your life and do everything
Absolutely.
for you, for your goodness. Well, and she has, I'm sure, done a lot, sacrificed a lot at our end for you. And today you are strong and powerful and an inspiration to other people around the world. And who else can be more proud than her today,
Yeah,
watching a video like
absolutely.
this? That's so
Absolutely.
beautiful. And my last question to you today would be, who inspired you to write Head Above Water, or what inspired you to write Head Above Water?
Well, I think, Ritu, because we don't see a lot of representation of MS or even illness and ill women or women struggling with illness. And that became something that was really, really exhausting for me. And because I teach literature, I teach stories, I teach drama, I teach poetry, I teach a bunch of things, not being able to find that representation was a very heavy weight on me. I was getting really tired of it, and I felt I needed to do something. And I
Yes.
felt, as you said, okay, now I have the power. I have a position of privilege, and I'm aware of that privilege that many people may not have. So what do you do with power and privilege? If you have a platform, you use it. And again, I really felt like, what am I doing in my life if I'm not doing anything about it? I'm just going to sit there and be sad about it and really upset about it. I needed to use my voice, my privilege as a teacher, my privilege as someone who is, with students most of the time, with the younger generation. I want to change society in one way or another. So I felt like it's my role. And what better way to do it than through writing? I've always loved writing, I've always written. And I thought, now it's time for these thoughts to be out in the world and maybe, like you said, affect someone younger, affect someone going through the same thing, older, but still hasn't found some answers. I really, really wanted that to actually be something I contribute to the world rather than waiting for the world to change. I wanted to do something about it, just like your podcast. It's a privilege, it's a platform to have so many followers. So what are you going to do with those followers? What are we going to do when people are actually listening to us? Well, that's when we start using our voices and tell our stories. Otherwise, you haven't used that privilege. It's a privilege, it's not something that comes all the time. So when I finally started recognizing that, that's when I felt, okay, this is a time in my life where it's now or never. And so
Yeah.
I think that's why Head Above Water came to life. And I'm so lucky that, and blessed really, that it got picked up by the perfect publisher, by people who really wanted to make a difference in the world, by people like yourself, readers like yourself, who want to make a difference in what they do. It makes a difference where the book goes. And I think because it's my intention behind the book that it does change lives, when it falls in the right hands, people will pass it on to other people. And I hope that it does change something in some point in history.
Of course, I'm sure it will, and it will do wonders. This is not just a book, it is not a fictional book. It is about the life of people fighting with disability, fighting with illnesses, fighting with the stigma of the society, and much more. This is
Yeah.
not just a book, it is, you can say, a help, a guide for people. And it is an awareness platform, I can say, that it's not only for the people with illnesses or disabilities to read, but everybody around the world to read this and know how people with disabilities deal with every day of their lives. Every day, it's a difficult day of their life. Well, thank you so much, Doctor. It was such a pleasure having you here, and thank you so much for this book. It's really amazing. Head Above Water. So, everybody of you watching this here, please go on to Amazon.com and order this book, Head Above Water by Dr. Shahd Alshammari. And she's amazing with MS. She's an MS warrior herself, and she has written this book. So thank you so much, Doctor, for being
Thank you,
here.
Ritu. Thank you
It's
so
such an honor
much.
to have you here.
It's such an honor to be amongst all these MS warriors, really, and I hope the book falls in the right hands. Thank you for having me, and I hope that we continue to have multiple sclerosis awareness, and we continue to have your platform and connect with each other. And everybody else who doesn't have MS, still, it's always important for, to be supportive. We need able-bodied allies. We need people who want to support. So thank you again for having me. I really appreciate you reading the book. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, warriors, for being with us. I hope you found this session useful. We will be back again next week with another informative session. So, don't forget to subscribe and reserve just 10 minutes for MS.
No, you're not alone.